Reporting live from the scene where it's looking grim. I'm JD. Now, back to you, Jim.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back. This is the Sexual Intellectual Podcast. I am your host, JD Nero, aka JD, aka Glasses on Today, so also Rearview Mirror. Ladies and gentlemen, there is way too much going on to fit into a 20-minute podcast today. And so I'm going to just do my best to speak about some of the things I think we should discuss. And I also want to start by letting you know I will not be up here discussing every single thing that the new president does, or I should say the returning president does, because there is way too much going on for me to be up here. I'd have to podcast damn near every day for his first 100 days. And although that would be fly, I have no interest in doing that. So we will get to more of that later, but I just want to start with that. And so, yeah, I know what we do here. Let's start by talking about some dating. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there's some interesting things going on in the dating world, or I should say the dating app world. And let's start there. It seems like almost every time I start the pod, I find another article about Bumble or Hinge doing things. And perhaps that's the algorithm just putting things in front of me because they know I'm interested in that. But also, some of this stuff is interesting. And so we're going to talk about it. And so this article is from TechCrunch, a website I like. It says, Hinge's new AI feature determines if your prompt response is too basic. Hinge today launched a new AI-powered feature called Prompt Feedback, which aims to improve your dating profile by analyzing how you answer prompts and assessing if it needs to be more specific or authentic. Powered by OpenAI's GPT-4o Mini, Prompt Feedback evaluates each response and offers personalized advice tailored to help you share interesting details about yourself, which can lead to more engaging conversation. And so there you have it, folks. I just wanted to say that I think this is really interesting. So I'll be honest, I went into Hinge and went in there and tested it out. And there's some interesting things. So it does give you feedback. I will not put my profile on the screen, but it does give you feedback. It does say like, yes, this detail is good. It shows authenticity. And then it does say in other areas, depending on what you write, it'll say, consider adding more details. And that's what I saw when I went in there and, messed around with it a little bit, moved some things around. And so, yeah, I thought this is interesting. Here we see ChatGPT being included in Hinge's stuff, in Hinge's database and Hinge's back channels, back workings, inner workings. Well, I don't know the proper tech term. I'm not a tech guru, far from it. But I think this is really interesting. And I'm wondering, have any of you tried Hinge's new AI feature? What feedback have you gotten if you tried it? And if you have not tried it, would you be interested in trying it? Are you curious to see what the AI feature will tell you about your prompt responses? I assume more AI will be included in the apps. Bumble already spoke about this as well. And so I think it's interesting that these two kind of dating app leaders, if you will, I know Tinder is really popular, but I haven't seen anything on Tinder. Maybe I could look up some stuff about that. But I know these two dating apps, are definitely including AI. And I think that's really interesting. I'm curious to see what y'all think about it. Let me know your thoughts about AI coming into the dating app world. All right. Now we're going to move on. And we're going to play a video here. This is sex and not at the same time. This is both sex and politics. As you know, this continues to happen. And so for this, we're going to go to Under the Desk News on Instagram and TikTok. One of my favorite people to follow.
Pointing out the absurdities of some of the legislation involving reproductive health that's been coming out, a legislator in Mississippi introduced the Contraception Begins at Erection Act. making it unlawful for a person to discharge genetic material without the intent to fertilize an embryo.
Well, unless the defendant attempted to contact every single one-night stand to determine if a child resulted in those unions, he has no parental claim over this child whatsoever. Why now? Why this sperm?
I see your point.
And for that matter, all masturbatory emissions where his sperm was clearly not seeking an egg could be termed reckless abandonment.
I believe you've just won your case.
All right, folks, there you go. So that's good old Mississippi. And they are, just make sure I'm right here. Yes, Mississippi. That's right. Good old Mississippi. Mississippi is making it, or trying to make it, where that is where things begin. And so I don't know what to tell y'all about this. This is sex news, I guess. And this is obviously abortion related. I love that at the end of it, V included a funny clip from, I believe, Legally Blonde. And it's kind of like the only thing really to say here. It's like, well, what exactly are we doing? If we're going to blame it on, what's the term? Something genetic material. To discharge genetic material. So listen, folks. I think this is really interesting. They're saying now that in Mississippi, this could possibly be the thing. I think it's really, really interesting and sad at the same time. Damn near comical. The way that they are trying to do things with reproductive rights. Yeah, sad. But also, like, how silly are we going to get with this stuff? And I hear some people saying, like, this is why dudes should get vasectomies. But what happened to condoms? Like, do we not believe in condoms? And why do people think that sex is going to automatically lead to pregnancy? There's lots of other things you can do to avoid a pregnancy. And there are plenty of birth control methods. I understand that they're trying to reduce the amount of birth control methods that are available to the ladies. I am against that. I've said that up here plenty of times. I am pro-abortion, pro-Plan B pill, all of that. But I just think this is really interesting. And listen, maybe dudes should get more vasectomies, or maybe we should just be responsible adults. That's it. Like, how much do we need? It's really interesting to me that this is going to continue to be a focal point of political agendas for the future. It's weird to me. I believe your body, your choice. Consenting adults should be having conversations before having sex. But yeah, I thought this was too interesting to just not speak about. And so, genetic material. It's crazy. And the fact that erection is in a proposed bill is wild. To me, anyway. I mean, maybe I don't think so, but I think it's quite wild. All right. Now let's keep it moving. Let's go to term of the week. I got two for ya. This is from Yahoo, but it says they got it from Fortune. Yahoo's smart. They just be kind of like using other people's stuff to keep their platform going. It's really smart. Anyway, so it says here, is this out of camera? Yes. All right. 9 out of 10 Gen Z and millennials say, quote, workplace cheating is acceptable. That's napping on the job or sneaking off early. When I was younger, that was called stealing company time. But let's see what they say here. It says Gen Z and millennial employees aren't against taking liberties with their work hours, with more than half admitting to a quiet vacation in the past year. Young professionals seem to have no qualms about taking liberties with their jobs, saying it's okay to sometimes snooze on the clock or use their work equipment for personal use. According to a new study, 95% of staffers aged between 18 and 34 said some form of, quote, workplace cheating is to be expected, whether that's clocking off early, unexpectedly turning up late, or using AI to complete assigned tasks. Wow. Not only that, but more than half of the 2,000 Americans who responded to writing services company Paper Owl admitted to quiet vacationing at least once in the past 12 months. We spoke about quiet vacationing before. I just thought it was interesting that there's this new term of quote unquote workplace cheating. And so I just wanted to share that with y'all. But like I said, when I was younger, that was called stealing company time. They would say if you're doing things that are not work related on company time, you're using company time to do personal things or random shit. That is stealing company time. But people definitely did it when I was younger too. People still do it now. And listen, I've been known myself to sometimes do personal stuff at work. Yes, it's true. I will not lie. And I have no qualms about it either. Let's keep it on Gen Z in the workforce for our next term of the week. Fortune is on it. You know what I'm saying? Welcome to, quote, career catfishing. Gen Z's new defiance against endless rounds of interviews and hiring managers who ghost. It says here, ghosting strikes the hiring process as Gen Z applicants react to unresponsive hiring managers by no longer replying to messages and sometimes not even turning up on the first day of work. Entering an increasingly competitive job market, some Gen Zers are responding to unusual situations in atypical ways, dealing with endless rounds of interviews, slow to respond employers, and an overall frustrating hiring process. A fraction of the cohort have taken to ghosting their employers back. About a third, 34% of Gen Zers are opting to do what's known as career catfishing. This means a successful candidate accepted a job and then never showed up. According to a survey of 1,000 UK employees conducted by CV Genius, the results found career catfishing is one of many strategies employees are using to gain more autonomy at work, including coffee badging, and quiet vacationing. However, Gen Z applicants are alone in going no and low contract during the recruiting process. Some 74% of employers now admit that ghosting is a facet of the hiring landscape, according to a 2023 Indeed survey of thousands of job seekers and employers. Next week, we will be discussing coffee badging, which I never heard of until this article. So, yeah, man, Gen Z is angry. They're sick of it and they're not playing. I think this is interesting. I don't know about not showing up for work because then you're probably fired, but maybe not. Maybe you have a certain amount of absences that are allowed during the initial probationary period during your initial hiring. I don't know. But I think this is really, really interesting and couldn't help but bring it up here for term of the week. So there you got two terms of the week. Since I haven't potted in eons before last week or the week before, whatever it was, I figured we get a couple in here. So there's more. If y'all want to go, you could go read the full article. I just wanted to read y'all a little bit of that. And there you go. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the quickie segment. You know how we do it? Headline, maybe a little more, and that's it. Things that I think you should know or that I found interesting and thought were worth sharing. And so for this one, we go to AP News. Here we go. It says Capital One sued by U.S. watchdog alleging bank cheated customers out of $2 billion. Ladies and gentlemen, that is $2 billion. It says here, a U.S. watchdog is suing Capital One for allegedly misleading consumers about its offerings for high-interest savings accounts and, quote, cheating customers out of more than $2 billion in lost interest payments as a result. That is foul. All right. What else we got for you? We go to the New York Times for this one. It says here, Instagram and Facebook blocked and hid abortion pill providers' posts. Some posts related to obtaining abortion pills were recently hidden on Instagram and Facebook, and some accounts were suspended before later being restored. All right. I don't think there's really much to say there, but the New York Times has an article about it. If y'all want to look it up, go for it. But this is more politics as usual, in my opinion. Meta does these things all the time, and so I'm not surprised, but I did think it was worth sharing. All right. And in good news, It says here, this is from Routers before I even continue. It says 4 Israeli soldiers swapped for 200 Palestinians. North Gaza shut over, hostage still held. It says releases are part of ceasefire's first phase. Freed Israeli soldiers had been captured at observation posts near Gaza. 200 Palestinian prisoners were freed. And so y'all can read up on that. I think this is good news. And I'm not going to say much more there, as I've already expressed my thoughts on the things going on with Israel and Gaza, both on my podcast and on my song Lats, which is on my project Mad Hatter, for those who don't know. Mad Hatter is available anywhere you stream music or purchase music, for those who still do that. What else we got? All right, so there's a lot of things that Trump have passed. Let's talk a little bit about politics as usual. Hit the drop.
Politics as usual.
Okay, so Trump has done some things that are interesting, and we're going to discuss one of them today. As it has created a trickle-down effect. And so this is from AP News. It says here, Trump's new Justice Department leadership orders a freeze on civil rights cases. President Donald Trump's new Justice Department leadership has put a freeze on civil rights litigation and suggests that it may consider police reform agreements negotiated by the Biden administration, according to 2 memos obtained on Wednesday by the Associated Press. Attorneys in the department's Civil Rights Division were ordered not to file any new complaints, amicus briefs, or other certain court papers, quote, until further notice, one of the memos said. Another memo directed attorneys to notify leadership of any settlements or consent decrees, court enforceable agreements to reform police agencies that were finalized by the Biden administration within the last 90 days. It said the new administration, quote, may wish to reconsider such agreements, raising the prospect that it may abandon 2 consent decrees finalized in the final weeks of the Biden administration in Louisville, Kentucky, and Minneapolis, Minnesota. Those agreements reached after investigations found police engaged in civil rights violations still need to be approved by a judge. They were among 12 investigations into law enforcement agencies launched by the Civil Rights Division under Attorney General Merrick Garland. So there's a lot of things going on with this. This is just one piece of what's going on, because of something else that Trump signed into law. I would like to go to another source of information I like, which is Earn Your Leisure. And they're speaking a little bit about what's going on with this whole situation. They're going to speak a little bit about the broader part of things. I'm not going to insert it in the video. I'll just play it, and y'all can hear what it says here. All right.
DEI thing, the job aspect was really not even the most harmful part. What's really detrimental is the suppliers. So government agencies have to do business with suppliers. These are small businesses that benefit from government contracts. Who is Elon Musk's #1 client? The United States government is his #1 client for SpaceX and his #1 client for Tesla. It's extremely beneficial if you can do business with the United States government, because the United States government spends more money with small businesses than any entity in the world. There's obviously been a long history of discrimination in the United States of America. So to have programs in place where Black businesses can get opportunities to do business with the #1 supplier, well, that's helpful. And a real world example of this is Don Peoples. He credits his start to one person, Mayor Marion Barry. Yep. District of Columbia, Black mayor, who made it DC policy to do business. I think it was like 30 or 40% of Black businesses, Black developers. He gave Don Peoples an opportunity nobody else would. In return, Don Peoples becomes a billionaire. He credits his success to that.
So there's more. Earn Your Leisure. They didn't pay me. This is not an ad. I just think they're a good source of information, and I wanted to pass that on to y'all. And so there's a lot going on with this DEI thing, and the civil rights stuff is clearly a big part of it. Let me just read y'all the executive order. So this is from Time Magazine, just so we can have a clear picture of what's going on, because the civil rights cases tie to an executive order. And so I just want to read that to y'all real quick, and just be able to paint a broader picture of what's going on for y'all who may or may not know, because this is all coming down from this executive order. And so it says here, again, this is from Time Magazine. This is their website, time.com. It says, when Donald Trump returned to the White House, one of the first actions as the nation's leader included beginning to dismantle and disrupt diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, efforts at the federal level. The same day he took office, Trump signed an executive order titled Ending Radical and Wasteful Government DEI Programs and Preferencing. He then directed that all federal DEI staff be placed on paid leave and eventually laid off. Trump's order also rescinded policies that required federal contractors to promote affirmative action and diversity programs. And also the next day, which it says here, I'll read that and then we'll move on. It says, in a separate executive order on January 2021, titled Ending Illegal Discrimination and Restoring Merit-Based Opportunity, Trump targeted DEI again and also revoked a slew of executive orders from the past 50 years, which attempted to increase diversity and address discrimination, including several executive orders that were issued to strengthen or expand the Equal Employment Opportunity Act. And so this is all a big deal. There are lots of different things tied to this. And so I think it's worth reporting on. What I will say is this: remember that executive orders are not directly signed into law. Remember that they're things that the president wants to happen. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And so there is a process, there is checks and balancing, but it's getting very messy very quickly. And so we will see how these things continue to unfold. And I will report on some of these things. Again, I will not, I will not speak about everything that he does. But I think this one is important, as it does have it does cover a large umbrella of things that affect us in multiple ways. And so I wanted to come up here and just give some information about that to the listeners, viewers, watchers, everybody up here. So that's it for today. I'll be back real soon. I am attempting to make this platform a weekly podcast once again. Last week I was on vacation and it just didn't work out. I also didn't want to come back and have pod number 2 be quote unquote on location. So this will drop Sunday morning, tomorrow morning from when I'm recording this, and y'all should be able to have it. And then I should be able to record towards the end of next week. And so that's the idea, to give y'all a pod either at the end or the beginning of each week. I like the beginning. Maybe Saturdays I could record and put them out on Sundays. But this is an attempt to do better at that. There's also a lot of things going on, and I want to keep people informed and help spread information in various areas. And so that's it for today. I'll see y'all next week.